Oh, it is that time. It is that time. What is up, everybody out there in the Texas high school football world? It's the Week 11 preview show. Lee, what's happening, man? How you doing?
I'm doing good. Just kind of cruising on through life right now. I don't
Oh,
know.
wow. All right. I love it. You're already at that stage in your adulthood where you're just saying, just making it. I'm just making it. No, we are all just making it, right? Oh, it's a
I
wonderful
think it's the
time.
long hair.
It's a long, it's a long hair.
I don't know. I got told I
Um,
looked like Shaggy when I was like when I first grew it out, and I was like, yeah.
there you
Like
go.
I was like, I'll just embrace that.
Oh, Scoob.
God, I should. One day I'll have to go with Shaggy for like
There.
Halloween.
Yeah, man, it's a glorious fall day. This time of year is perfect football weather. As John messaged us the other or yesterday about the show. Obviously, we're broadcasting not in Denton. We are both at home as we did not want to have to go up to Denton, then to go back down to Frisco later this evening for our Thursday night game. So we appreciate you guys watching. If you're watching us live, if you're watching us after the fact, yeah, appreciate the support and love and the attention to our little very mediocre internet show. I'm Stephen Peters, managing editor of the DenCo Gridiron platform. We got Lee Livingston to your right on the screen. He is our tech video extraordinaire. How you doing, man? Just tell me again how you doing.
I
Are you ready
prefer
for
the term just
this
button
week?
clicker.
What's up?
Am I ready for the week? Oh, I was just saying I like being called a button clicker because that's really all I know how to do.
But you're
I've
you're
just
more than
learned how to click some buttons.
a button clicker to me. It's still real to me, damn it. Um, no, it's an exciting week. We've got the season
Oh,
finale
I'm
this week.
pumped. This is the week. This is the week we you build up to. It's this week,
Yeah,
and then
11
it's kind of
long
like
weeks.
it's this week, and I would say like the regional final
Yeah.
is kind of like my favorite time of it. Like that's like the time I love because there's enough playoff games on still at that time where it's crazy and you're trying to keep up with all these other playoff games and sort of still mapping things out. But like that first couple of rounds, a little too much sometimes. It feels
Hmm.
like a little overwhelming. But then this week, because everyone's still trying to get into the dance, it's just utter madness. And we'll get into it a little bit later, but I mean, especially like within just our very own six A, oh my goodness, this week it feels like everything is just, I mean, everything could come crashing down on one team, and we might see someone else just having the greatest week of their lives.
Hmm.
And my voice is still kind of going in and out here.
Yeah. Is that something that's gonna last for a little while? Did they say, or is it just TBD?
Very TBD, from what I gathered. It just depends on if this thing ever turn. Depends if I have like a seizure and this thing has to go into overdrive. It depends.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's all very there's a lot of variables, but
Yeah, it's a new world you have to explore.
yeah, and so it's not as bad as it was a couple weeks ago. I'll
Sure.
just kind of it's just like getting used to talking when this thing turns on and kind of
Yeah, yeah.
oh, my breath is gone.
Oh, all right. Well, let's save your breath as much as we can this show again, and continue to let you navigate your new world of being a bionic man in the throat. Um, Real quick before we get into everything that we normally do, again, we would appreciate you guys for stopping by. If you're watching us live or if you're watching us after the fact, you can always check us out on our social media channels. That's X, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Threads, etc. We are everywhere you are here in Denton County. Also, if you want to interact with us off the show or whatever, want to participate in supporting us or contributing, you can always email us at info@dencogridiron.com. Lee just flashed up the social handles at DenCo Gridiron. Um, yeah, everywhere. Oh, there went my light. Whew, that was crazy. So now my lighting has changed as my lights slipped off. It's mounting. All right, so we're a week away from playoffs starting. The 6 week trudge that is the playoffs. Um, you put in here, what games outside of the team's district or the county are you paying attention to? Lee, do you have any thoughts on who you'd like to be kind of keeping an eye on as we hit week 11 starting tonight, and how that could potentially shape up the first round matchups?
So I'm definitely curious to kind of hear from anybody from, our DenCo Gridiron, our fellow high school football fans, if they want to kind of just let us know, engage with us here throughout the rest of the day. But for me myself, it's gonna be, I grew up a Geyer guy, so I'm paying it. If I were a Geyer guy, if I was still at Geyer, is what I'm gonna kind of go off of here. I'm paying attention to 6-6A and what happens there. What happens with Plano East? What happens with Marcus? What happens with Hebron? What is the fallout there? Because what happens there determines whether or not Capel is actually going to be D1 or D2. And we talked about it a bit on Saturday. Capel is a team that could. I do think Capel is very capable of knocking Geyer out in the first round. Love Geyer, very biased. I'll own that. It's just it's where I went to high school, and I'm not that far off from graduating. It hadn't even been 10 years for me. It's just I think if you are somebody, this is just one of those questions that I wanted to bring up because I think if you're a fan, a player, whatever it is, this is where you start to look. Not just you're a few weeks ago, you're kind of gazing out towards those other districts and stuff,
Yeah.
but now it's like I really kind of need to start doing that. And I know you mentioned it in the notes. Wakeland and Frisco. If I'm one of those teams, I'm kind of paying attention to like Timberview and some of these other teams. Not necessarily what is the shakeout in some of those districts, but how do those teams play this week? Does something happen? Does somebody get hurt? Like
Yeah.
what is going to happen in every one of these games? Because there's just so many things that could affect your team a week from now. That happened this week.
Yeah, I mean, you're right on the head, especially with that 5-6A and 6-6A crossover. We're lucky to have these two districts right in our backyard where we are getting, um, these really intriguing matchups and cross county, games here in the first week of the playoffs, and then that could also extend out to a couple of weeks from now when they're in the regional semifinals and meeting, either the runner up or the winner of the same district. So yeah, it's very intriguing. Some other games I'm also looking at is obviously Azel and Centennial for 3-5-AD1. Why? Because that impacts the colony. We kind of have a rooting interest, or at least I do. I live here in the colony, but I have a rooting interest to see this team get over that hump when they were a game away from doing it last year. They beat Ryan, and it sucks to be a team that's 5-3 in district and miss out on the playoffs, but that's just how it shakes out, unfortunately. So we'll talk about that here in a little bit, but that's one. Midlothian and Red Oak, we're again that's the bi-district matchup for most likely Ryan and Northwest. So whoever gets the 3 seed might be playing the loser of that matchup. So there's the interest there and to kind of see what happens with that. Obviously, that's for a district title in that district as well. And so really two really good teams. And then Dallas White and Birdville, that would impact who Lone Star is playing in the first round. So a lot of extracurricular districts to pay attention to. It's a lot of schools that we have to monitor here. There's 28 of them, but you also have to kind of be forecasting moving forward what the path for to the playoffs and through the playoffs look like. Because it's a very winding road and there's a lot of branches with if this then that type of situations. So yeah, that's if you're a fan of any of these schools that we cover, or even a rival, if you don't like a school that we cover and you're a rival of them, and there's a lot to pay attention to and be interested in. So yeah. All right. So let's get to some news and notes. Hit it, Lee. Yeah, in
Took a
case you
second to
were,
find it.
yeah, you're good. I know it did. I just wanted to tease you a little bit. If you've been living under a rock the last I don't know 12 hours, 14 hours. Yes, the Rangers are World Series champions, first time in the the organization's history. Before, when they were the Senators Part Deux, and then moved to Arlington in '62, I think, or no, sorry, '72 is what it was. So,
That
uh,
sounds correct. Yeah,
yeah,
72.
61, and then they moved in '62 or '72. So, yeah, so some news and notes. All right, so we've got 4 teams carrying over from last week that are ranked, and we have an old newbie rejoining this week. Nelson, Lone Star, Argyle, and Liberty Christian all still state ranked. Louisville is back into the top 25 in 6A, hitting that 25th spot. Um, I honestly didn't think we would see them back in the top rankings just because that loss to Coppell was so dramatic. But kudos to them. We last year we ended with 5 teams in the area ranked by the season's end. Probably going to be that same situation. Depending on tonight, we could have a 6th team end up in the final rankings, but we'll talk about that here in a little bit. Um, Moving over to our award winners, we posted this on our website, DenCoGridiron.com. You can check these out. Our offensive award winners are Moses Onalowo from Braswell, Jay Kreckler, the running back from Argyle, Christian Trickett, back to good to see him back in action this week for last week, and ready for the playoffs after again 1 catch 2 weeks ago against Pinkston, and that was it.
Mhm.
And then Cade Bortnam, the quarterback out of Lake Dallas, had a very solid game. A lot of great performances. Again, it's tough to say these 4 were the best of the week when really, I mean, you could do 10. Like you could probably pull out a player of the week for each team. Ideally, that would be the case, but it's just that's a lot of work, and I'm sorry. We just don't have that time and effort available to do so. Then moving over to defense, we have Sean Oliver again. I think he even retweeted it 5 time. His 5 time. You get that reference?
If I'm not mistaken, is that Kobe? Or
No,
am I?
it's Booker T from WCW.
Oh, Oh, that is Booker T. Oh
Yeah,
my goodness. Yeah,
yeah, yeah,
he was at the. I caught him at the end of his career when I was a
yeah.
kid.
Fair enough.
I
No,
didn't get to see.
I
Yeah. So,
I started
oh man,
watching
he was wonderful.
I started watching
Loved
wrestling like
him.
right in the heyday of his career at
You're so
WCW and
lucky.
everything. So because I had both WCW and WWE going on at the same
Yeah, I know. You're
time.
lucky.
Yeah, I'm sorry. The Attitude Era is unmatched, and I will stay that way forever. Anywho, so he's the 5 time defensive player of a week. We have Errol West. I think it's his second time doing so. The defensive end out of Ryan, Jonathan Massengale, linebacker out of Crum, and Jacobin Julian may not have had the most gaudy stats, but he had that pick 6 right after Nelson had just scored to really just kind of bury Southlake last week. So he got the pick 6 and really helped elevate Nelson to that win. A couple more things. Jackson Lee, that linebacker out of Lone Star, he committed to Nebraska. We had a few commits this week out of our area, and I'm sure there's a lot more that we're going to cover. But congratulations to Jackson. He actually decommitted from Texas Tech this week or this month, earlier last month, I should say, and then recommitted within a few weeks. Not recommitted, but committed then to Nebraska. So Matt Rule picks up a pretty good talent out of the DFW. And then we had 2 Braswell players that I saw come through that also committed. And if we don't mention you, it's because we haven't seen it. Whether it came through on a school social handle or we follow you and everything. If we missed it, we missed it, and I'm sorry. It's just there's a lot to cover throughout the week. But Solomon, the defensive tackle from Braswell, is committed to the Colorado School of Mines, and Dylan Scott, the safety out of Braswell, committed to Texas A&M Commerce. So congratulations to those 3. Hopefully, your commitments now stick for when it comes to signing day, because I know it's like especially the higher profile schools like Nebraska, um, and Texas and A&M. There's always the possibility of late flips, right? So signing day is always a fun little project or show to watch because you'll see somebody who just completely flips out of nowhere. You remember Peyton Bowen last year, remember?
Yep.
Yeah, what happened there? So he's Notre
From what
Dame
I gathered, he flipped on Notre Dame, and then
flipped to
he
where?
didn't to Oregon, and
To
then he
Oregon
was
on
well. It was
on
he was
signing day. On signing day, he flipped, and then
supposedly he had already done the paperwork to go to Oklahoma, but then he didn't have the hat. He had left the hat, and
yep,
so he didn't want to not do. The ESPN was like rushing it or something, and they didn't want to wait, and so he just had to do something,
yeah,
and so he
it's
just grabbed an Oregon hat because he didn't have an Oklahoma hat.
it's
That's what people have said, and because ESPN wasn't going to wait for him,
yeah, it's again, it's just high
which is
theater at this point. Which let the kids have their fun.
oh yeah, but I don't know how
it's
much fun that was for Peyton in that situation where it's like they're making him grab a completely different hat than what he was planning on grabbing.
yeah,
But
it's
that's a little that's where
but
I'm
it's
like,
still
okay,
very
ESPN's.
theatrical.
Oh no, I'm not disagreeing. It's theatrical because, but I mean, theater's fun and performance is fun, and
Sure.
but it bugs me when ESPN's not going to let the like just cut back to him later.
Was it ESPN or was it
It
like
was ESPN. It was an
CBS and
ESPN 300. No, it was
247
ESPN.
Sports?
No, this was ESPN 300, and they like, but and that's where I'm not shocked because ESPN's not going to let some kid
Dictate,
who
yeah, for
forgot his
sure,
hat. Yeah, and
for
so
sure.
that's where it bugs me. It's like you can go show the other recruits and then come back to Peyton. Like it's not,
Yeah, no, 100%.
but and that's
I
why I'm not surprised
I
that
I
ESPN did that.
understood the situation a little bit differently though. I didn't know it was a forgotten hat.
Okay,
That might be a story that circulated, but that's definitely not the story I heard when it first happened. But anywho, there is still the possibility of people flipping. Jackson could possibly flip again late in the recruiting cycle, and all these other 4 and
okay.
5 star talents that we have in the area that have been long committed, like maybe Gunter Hayden, or is it Hayden Gunner? For Denton?
Hayden Gunner.
Yes,
Yeah, I
yeah,
think
I
it's.
knew
I believe it's
I
getting
that two
Hayden
last
Gunner.
name thing always gets me mixed up sometimes. He could flip from Stanford because there's no longer a Pac-12. Um, the kid Max Anderson, the left guard for or sorry, left tackle for Reedy, he could flip from Tennessee. Who knows? There's always a possibility. So just be on the lookout for that. But also
Mhm.
congratulations to those three that we mentioned. All right, teams on a bye. We got two of them to round out the regular season. Reedy is off this week, and then the Colony is off this week. Reedy is in the playoffs; they are locked into the 2 seed for 6-5-81. The Colony is just hoping and wishing that Centennial loses because there's no way in a head-to-head with Centennial or a three-way tie with Ryan, Centennial, and the Colony that they get in. And then two more things. Wakeland and Frisco. That game moved, and I don't understand why. It's over at Little Elm now, as opposed to Toyota Stadium. There might be an FC Dallas game or whatever happening on Friday night, but that game is moved to Lobo Stadium over in Little Elm. And then our snapshot numbers are up to date. We have 23 of the 24 UIL teams in there. A lot of not a lot. There's some interesting changes in numbers. I don't know if you've seen those numbers yet, Lee, but for the one team we're missing is Little Elm. They have not reported out anything. And then the biggest change since we last talked about this was Northwest is likely to jump up to 6A. They turned in 2,500 students, which is a huge increase of I think about 200 to 300 or something like that
It
from the
sounds about right because I mean they are 5AD1, so it has to be somewhere in that kind of range. And I
yeah, it
think
was
they
about
were around
375.
2,200,
What's
375.
up? Yeah,
I was
so
gonna say it had to be somewhere in that range.
it went from 2176 to 2550. So that's a
Jeez.
375 student increase. And I know there's going to be another school coming on board at Northwest IC at some point. It's going to happen. Um, I just don't know if they've started they've broke ground or whatever, but it might fall within our
Yeah.
coverage zone. But yeah, that area is growing just like everybody else, except for Louisville ISD. Apparently, everybody except for the is dropping. There our 6A Louisville ISD schools are still 6A, but Louisville, Heber, and Flower Mound, Marcus all had numbers drop. So that's just kind of a little interesting data nugget for that situation.
Makes them more likely to play D2 if they make the playoffs. So I think that's the one
Who is this? The
important.
Colony?
No, the Louisville schools.
Uh,
A little
yeah.
more
Again,
likely.
it just
Not always, but because there are, what is it, 6 of them?
five
Or
of them.
five.
Yeah.
There's
Then
5
you
of
have the
them. So
yeah,
and
and
then
then you're gonna. It
if they
depends on
are
who you get
matched up with the
matched up
Plano
with.
school, so
Yeah, it depends on if they carry Coppell, that's a bigger school. If they carry the Plano schools again, those you're gonna have a couple in there. So it might be the same exact situation where it depends on really who gets in. Like if Plano East gets in or something next year, and they're in that same district.
yeah.
They it might drop a team to D2, which it doesn't really matter. The only one that really stays up in any scenario, not really any scenario, but in most scenarios, is Louisville. They will most
Yeah.
likely stay up. But yeah, just some interesting snapshot numbers. Like I said, we have 23 of our 24, and then I think we mentioned it before, the 4 TAP schools that was dropped on August 10th, where we're going to have Prestonwood, Liberty, and Legacy all in the same district, and Coram Deo is staying put. All right, let's hear from. Oh no, we have a breakdown. Let's break some stuff down, man. Let's do it. I was getting a bit ahead of myself on that. I thought we were at the John break, as he does every week, covering his coffee stain. No, let's break some stuff down. We have if a lot of scenarios up at play this week. Um, there's 3-way ties. There's winner take alls. There's clinching districts and everything. There's a lot that can happen. But we're only really going to break down the scenarios in which teams are fighting for a playoff spot. Because we're going to talk about some games where teams that have already clinched are now battling for playoff position. But we have like the Marcus and the Hebrons and Lake Dallas and Wakeland and all that stuff. Like Crum, Ponder. Let's break it down. So we'll start with 6A. Over in 5-6A, or 4-6A to start with. We know that Nelson is one district. 5-6A, Geyer is locked into that 2 seed in Division 2. Then it becomes the 6-6A mess. So Marcus technically is not in, apparently. I thought they were in with the win last week. Apparently they're not. So they are in for sure this week with a win or a Hebron loss. Both of those situations are very likely. Hebron is in with a win or a Marcus loss. Now there is a possibility of a 3-way tie where Hebron wins, and then Pesh. Well, that creates a 3-way tie. Is if Hebron is in and then Marcus loses, that creates the 3-way tie because they would all be 4 and 3 in district play, and then it becomes a point situation. The Dallas Morning News has a great breakdown of that as well, of how the points break down. But really, it's take care of business if you're either school. I have it in a note. Another game we're going to talk about. You don't want to have to leave it into the hands of someone else. And Lee, we've talked about this before. You feel the same way. What are your thoughts in this situation?
Go win the football game. Don't, like you already said it. It's the same thing we talked about with Crum, and I think we'll go ahead and probably talk about it. We'll talk about that again. It's what we see with quite a few of these teams, and it's going to be the pattern I think throughout this conversation. Just don't leave things to chance. Don't leave things to other teams. Go win your game. Take care of your business. If you're one of those teams that needs other stuff to fall your way, go win your game. Hope, cross fingers, do whatever you got to do, and If things don't go your way, that sucks. But if they do go your way, at least you did what you needed to do. Because if you lose and everything goes the way you needed it to, and some other teams lose that you needed to lose, well, now you can't get in because you didn't take care of your own business, right?
Yeah.
Now, at the end of the day, it's always easier when you take care of it, in week 3, 4, or 5. But teams like the Colony, you kind of get like it sucks because you've had a good season. But there's other teams that just uh, all right, I'm gonna run out of breath here.
No, you're good. You're good. I'll pick you up. Yeah, no, it does. It's a number of things. One, it's just not leaving it up to chance,
Yeah.
because you can't. No other team is going to help you out in that scenario, in terms of like trying to help you out. They might do it just so ipso facto, but if you take care of business, if you're Marcus, if you take care of business, if you're Hebron, you don't have to worry anything to worry about. But the other aspect is if you do get in, it's not backing into the playoffs. I think that's to me that's the biggest thing is like carrying over
Hmm.
positive results, positive thinking, not having to hope for a three-way tie to be enacted just to get in and kind of pins and needles waiting on that fact. So
That's
um,
a really good point too, because I think we see it. I mean, you just saw it with the Rangers. It's like, uh, yeah,
yeah,
I
they
mean,
they definitely
you
bucked that idea,
like.
but
Well, no, I would say it's a little bit of did they necessarily go barnstorming into the playoffs? No, but I mean, you go back to the Nationals a few years ago. Yeah, they kind of limped in a little bit, but it's like, or well, they were the team that they were hot at the end of the month and such. But in baseball, no one cares what you do in the regular season. It's if you are hot in October, that is all that matters. No
yeah.
one that's it, right? And so for football purposes here, it's this week from now on, are you hot? And this is the week to use to get hot. I think that's what this is because it's kind of the jumping off point.
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of started last week. It's starting, continuing this week. We're in playoff mode. It's
Hmm.
a lot of these teams are win and in, and lose, and you're most likely out, and lose. If another team loses, then you might have a shot. And if you're coming at it and they like we have a lot to fight for, and you win and you carry that through to the first round of the playoffs. Yeah, you might be matched up against a really good team, but you might have some good takeaways from that game, even if you end up losing, that you can then future cast to next year and build upon, as
Hmm.
opposed again to backing into the playoffs and then having that carry over to poor performances and just getting run out the stadium, um, in the first round. All right, 5A. There's a mess here still with Northwest, or sorry, more so Ryan Centennial and the Colony. We alluded to it earlier, but for long and short of it, Northwest and the Ryan winner, that will be number 2 in that district, and 3-5 AD1. Right now, Northwest has the game up, but they lose and they're down to 3. Then it becomes this little untangling of webs here again. We have Ryan loses and Centennial wins. The Colony is eliminated in on points in that three-way tiebreaker. There's no possibility for the Colony to do so. Now, when I texted Hennigan about this, he was very much he gave me the whole +18, +18, +7. Like I have no idea what any of that means. I don't know how these points
Here's
things
some
work.
math, Stephen.
Yeah, it's like, well, no, I mean, I'm good with math. Don't get me wrong. I love math and everything, but like I don't
You.
they but when people start talking points and everything, it's just like, why not just you? I don't get what we're jumping off from in terms of the points. Like I'm coming in on the blind on that front. So I'm glad that I was told by Rangel, like we have Centennial has to lose basically. So if Ryan wins and Centennial wins, and the Colony is eliminated on head to head with Centennial. Basically, again, nuts and bolts. Centennial has to lose to Azel. This is why I'm interested in watching that game or understanding what's going on in that game for the Colony to get in. Now, if Ryan loses and Centennial loses, the Colony would move to third, and then Ryan would move to fourth. So again, fun little mess to unpack there. But we have a breakdown on DenCoGridiron.com about that situation. That's actually in our Path to the Playoffs article that we posted this week. All right, staying in 5A, 6-5A, we have Wakeland and Frisco. Again, we mentioned that one being moved to Little Elm. But the winner of that one will be the 3 seed. Wakeland's in. I'll talk about this one a little bit later, but if they win, they are the 3rd seed. If Frisco wins, they are the 3rd seed. But Wakeland is in. Lake Dallas and Denton. If Lake Dallas wins, they get the 2 seed. Denton would be 4th. If Lake Dallas loses and Emerson loses, Denton, if it's still kind of like short circuits my brain just based off of last year and losing Coco Brown and expectations this year, Denton can be the 2nd seed at a 3-5 AD 2, which, 4
I think
weeks
the other
ago
part of
seemed
it is we saw them week 1, and week 1 did not look
no
great.
instill any confidence at all. And they toughed out a win over a winless Creekview team. So it's still just kind of unfathomable that they could possibly be 2nd. More than likely, Lake Dallas takes care of this game, and we have Argyle, Lake Dallas, Emerson, and Denton as your 1 through 4. All right, 4A. This is really cut and clean. I love this. Crum has to beat Gainesville to get in. They needed to win last week. They got the win. Gainesville needed to lose last week. That happened. So now it sets up this beautiful win and in de facto playoff game. And we'll talk about this one a little bit later in our breakdown of games moving forward. And then 3A, Ponder. This one's sticky. It's a tough Whitesboro team to go against this week, and then you need Peaster to lose to Boyd. If there's a tie in record, if there's a tie in any record, Peaster gets in because of the head-to-head. That's unfortunate, but that's just the way things break down. Lee, you have any thoughts on these breakdowns of playoff teams or
I
playoff
think we're
trying
gonna.
teams?
I think it's going to be some fingers crossed for a few of these teams. Mainly Ponder.
Mm,
We're going to be sitting here, hoping things just break their way. It is Texas high school football. You have to remember, most of these guys are going to be under the age of 18. Like they're just like weird
yeah,
things are going to happen on the football field, and this is not a $1 million or $1 billion industry where the coaches and everyone involved.
not
Uh,
yet.
Not yet, no. But as much as the coaches and some people want it to be, it's not. And I think most people understand that, and it's because of that. I'm trying to kind of get this word salad out here. It's you're more likely to see a little less clean football sometime. Obviously, you're going to see less clean football because they're younger, but the coaching and things, you'll just see weirder stuff that just doesn't quite click and causes some mistakes here and there. That's not because the coaches are bad or the players are bad. It's just it's not at that echelon of the NFL or FBS football and stuff.
Sure.
And that just gives it makes things more prone to upset sometimes. Sometimes it also leads to, we saw DeSoto beat Duncanville this week, right? And we saw Duncanville and South Lake lose in the same week and lose district titles in the same week,
I think the
right?
last time that happened is
I mean,
2021, if I'm not mistaken. Duncanville lost to trying to remember who they lost. I'm thinking of the last time they met in the playoffs. Duncanville lost to South Lake.
yeah,
I've
they lost to, there was a time they lost to South Lake, but they had a 40 some odd game district winning streak going,
Yep.
just like South Lake. And they had a 25 game total win streak going. South Lake had a 40 some odd game district winning streak going. I mean, and they both lost their district titles this week. And it was the teams that DeSoto, I can kind of wrap my head around, but it's like, I mean, I was talking to you guys in the booth at the Geyer game. Duncanville's going to take care of that. Like,
Yeah.
I didn't, I mean, I wanted Byron Nelson to go out and get that win. I felt like, okay, they can do it, but it's like, I mean, it was hard to like picture it. And so that's where, like, for all these teams, I do think anything's possible. I'm not going to write somebody off until they're dead and that final nails in the coffin. That's just that's how my brain works for high school football.
Sure. Yeah. No. Kind of what you were alluding to. It leads to pressing and being out of control in terms
Hmm.
of how you're playing, how you're thinking, how you're reacting to situations. Maybe
Hmm.
not like bodily out of control, but it's just you don't have any sense of what's happening around you in terms of like why is this
Yeah,
not working or working this way and things of that nature. Yeah, for sure. You also alluded to like a couple of teams that are going to have their fingers crossed. I think, and you can feel free to have a difference of opinion on this one, but like I think Hebron's going to be one of those teams that might be
yeah.
crossing their fingers and hoping Marcus wins. The Colony obviously is, they're off this week, and so they're definitely going to be hoping that Azel can do something there. And then Ponder. I mean, basically,
Ponder has to have their fingers crossed. Like it doesn't matter if they
Well,
win; they have to.
no, it does. I mean, yeah,
Oh, they
they
have to
have to
win, but they
win
also
because
have to. They also
because
have to be like hoping and praying and saying, "Please let
yeah,
the
I
other
mean,
guys win."
in a sense, Ponder has to. If they lose, regardless, it doesn't matter what happens in peace or
Done.
void. If they lose, they're out. That's basically the long and short of it. All right, let's take a quick 30, real quick. Let's have John talk to you, lovely folks
Everything's
watching.
bigger in Texas, especially Texas high school football. We're entering our 7th season with the DenCo Gridiron platform. We started this 7 years ago right across the street at West Oak Coffee Bar. Just an idea to bring content directly wherever you are. Be a part of the community. Join us. Help our contributors to tell the stories each and every Friday night throughout the season. Talking your town, your team.
A little fast on the trigger there.
A little bit. Not only did he spill coffee on his shirt, it was probably like 6,000 degrees outside when y'all shot that, right?
It was pretty warm, but I think we were under a tree. I don't know. Oh well, actually, I had
No,
him
he was
back up
not
into the
under a
sun.
tree.
I was under a tree. I had him back up into the sunlight. Hey
Oh, all
John, can
right.
you get in the light? Hey John.
Yeah, so if you wanna contribute, again, info@dencogridiron.com. Also, Nate, I know, you watch after the fact a lot, so Nate, Terrell over in Louisville, I actually did read your email finally, all the way through. I don't disagree with anything that you said, and obviously, I didn't publish or will air what, issues were arising, but I appreciate the reach out and following what we do and spreading the word. All right. We have top 3 games for each of us. Lee, you wanna lead it off or you want me to go first?
You know what? I'll go ahead and go first. If you or you want to alternate.
No, go for it.
All right. So I'll go first. My first one's gonna be Crum and Gainesville. I think that's a pretty easy one here. It's just win or go home.
Yep.
I don't really think there's much analysis needed on that one. We talked about Crum plenty. They're going to kind of go as Ty Tabor goes. I think Ty Tabor is a very good quarterback, very talented. He's had his struggles, a little bit lower completion percentage here at times. But when he's on, oh my goodness, that guy is Ty Tabor is a beast when he's on. And I think this is a great time to just, let's see what he can do when the pressure's on. And if he can just kind of calm himself, keep himself calm, go out and just play his brand of football. He doesn't need to try to force things. He's got the natural arm talent. He's got all the natural tools.
Let's piece of notes together.
Absolute. He's got all the natural tools of an absolute beast. He just needs to, keep the heart rate down and just let himself allow himself to kind of see everything. That's really all it is for him. And if he does that, I don't know if Gainesville is going to be able to keep up with that Crum team because he's the kind of quarterback that you can just make all of his receivers 1,000 times better.
Mhm.
And I think Crum has some really good young players on both sides of the ball outside of Ty Tabor. Uh, so
Yep.
I think Crum is very capable of winning this game. Neither of these teams are really that much farther apart than each other in terms of talent in any way, shape, or form. I think this is going to be an absolute neck and neck battle. If you are a Crum Bobcat fan, if you live in Crum, if you went to Crum, whatever it is, go support them. It's. I know we can't get out there to that game. But like, if you're a fan of that team, get out there for this game. It's one of the biggest games that I can recall Crum having in a while because they haven't been to the playoffs in a few years. So get out there, go support them. They're going to need it. All right, and then next on my list is going to be Marcus at Plano East. Marcus, go win a football game. Go get it. This Plano East team, kind of iffy on offense at times. They're somewhat balanced, but they don't do anything crazy explosive. And I think that's where Marcus is going to kind of have the edge here. If I'm looking at things, where'd Dane Parlin's numbers go? He's only completing about 58.5% of passage. However, he's closing in at 2,000 yards. I think he's going to be able to go out and do some work. I think he's just a little bit. I think he's kind of cut down on those interceptions, if I'm not mistaken, here in the second half of the season. I think he's kind of found himself here in this once they got into district play, and since that the Mound showdown, and then Isaiah Kalepi or Kilakipi, 842 yards rushing, and he's averaging about 6.5 yards per carry. The dude's been a beast. Brock Golwas also been a beast. He's averaging 7.5 yards a carry. He only has 24 carries total in the season. Just a stud. Their rushing attack is amazing. I love it. They've got some great receivers out there at Marcus as well. And then the last game on for me is going to be Preston Wood at Parish Episcopal. It's a district title game. Preston Wood seems to have really turned the corner here as of late. I mean, it's a district title game, and Preston Wood here in the last few weeks has just smoked everybody. It really feels like Kellen Tasby and co. have kind of figured things out, and I am really curious to kind of see what they do here in this type of game where there is a district title on the line, and they're playing another team that I believe only has one less loss than them.
Yeah, you're 100% spot on that one. Prestonwood has owned this series, though. Especially the last year, they won twice, holding Prestonwood to 14 points. I think the emergence of Caden Collins as the feature back really helps that Prestonwood offense go to hopefully keep up with Parrish. Parrish is going for 5 in a row now. And regardless of what's happened earlier in the season, they are still the big bad bully of this district, the big bad bully of this TAPS Division I as well. And until somebody knocks them off, and it could start tonight, we could see, or not tonight, tomorrow, we could see Prestonwood claim a district title and knock off Parrish there, as well as have now that one up on Parrish if they meet in the playoffs, which would be the state title game again. So, yeah, you're 100% spot on. I think they have played exceptionally well, even especially since that range-shortened game against Little Elm when they were down. Yeah. What was it, 28-14, I think? And they called it.
They were getting handled.
They were getting handled against Little Elm. And, ever since then, it seems like they've turned a corner and really, done well, especially in district play. One note about the the Crum and Gainesville game. Yeah, it's a winner take all for that 4th seed. I think what will aid Tabor a little bit a little bit in the if things seem a little rocky early on, it's just how activated that defense is. You have Hayden Jones, you have Mateo Gonzalez, and I can't remember the third player off the top of my head, but they have 3 guys with over 100 tackles this year on defense. Case Pitt is another one over there on defense. These are some 2-way players that really shine on defense and help ease the burden on offense as well. So, Crum's got the players, they've got the talent. They just got to I think they have to put both sides of the ball together for all 4 quarters to come out on top and get that 4th seed. So, no, I love those games. I mean, I think all the games that we have in terms of the 7 games to watch this week are massively important, and you've got 3 of those 7. I think I have the other 3, if I'm not mistaken.
I believe so.
The first one is going to be Ryan versus Northwest. This was a 10-point win last year for Ryan and Northwest. We kind of talked about, the backing into the playoffs. Well, they were in the exact same position they were last year 2 weeks ago, sitting in second with a 1 loss to Alito, and then they lost to Centennial, then lost to Ryan, and of course lost the first round of the playoffs. Things have changed now. We're seeing a much different style of offense for Northwest, where they're relying on the running attack. So it becomes a battle of, can Ryan force Northwest to beat them through the air with Letty's arm and the receivers? Because if you look at the stats for Northwest, they're not too glamorous outside of one player, right? And that's Ife Duradoy, who's got 1,400 yards, 23 touchdowns. I mean, he's just been lighting the world up on fire. So if Ryan can force the ball out of his hands and make Letty beat them, I think that bodes well for Ryan. On the other side, Northwest, is if they can get the stops on defense like they have been against some of these opponents in district outside of Alito, it bodes well for them too. So this is a lot on the line, especially when it comes to the playoffs, because the difference between the 2 seed and the 3 seed is home field advantage. It's nice to not have to travel, and so the winner of this game will get to host the playoff game next week, and that should be everything to either of these schools into this game. Not just bragging rights over we beat you. It's we want to play at home and not have to go into hostile territory. Next game on the list for me is Louisville and Hebron. Now, we're going to be at this game on Friday. It's not necessarily our game in the week, and we'll get into that here in a little bit, which one that is. But this is one of those quintessential trap games for Louisville. They're locked up a Division 1 spot. Now, depending on who's below them, will change who goes D1 or seed 1 or seed 2 for Louisville. But this game means everything to Hebron. So that's you don't want to get into that lollygag mentality if you're Louisville against that backing into the playoffs. Let's go out with in the regular season on a high note, get into the playoffs and start taking care of business. Not we didn't try. We mentally we were just kind of down. It was a nothing game for us. Now you have to get back up for the playoffs, which will be on the road if you're C2. For Hebron, they would. A loss here would mean they need Marcus to beat Plano East. And again, going back to what we said earlier, controlling your own destiny. You win, you're in. So again, this means a lot more to Hebron than it does Louisville. And this is one of those easy trap games for Louisville, since everything is pretty much locked up outside of your seed. And then lastly, this again another game that feels like a trap one. This is Wakeland versus Frisco. And it's a trap game for Wakeland's sake, in that they have already clinched a playoff spot. But you could be looking at either the 3 seed, you're still traveling, or the 4 seed, which means you'd have to play Richland next week if you're the 4 seed. So you don't want to lollygag. You don't want to just kind of rest on, well, we're in. We know we're on the road. It doesn't really matter who we're playing. And to me, it really doesn't matter, because Richland or Timberview is going to be a hell of a matchup in the first round anyways. But you're winning and you're not backing into the playoffs, and you have that carryover of a winning mentality as opposed to being the loser this week. So those are my 3: Ryan, Northwest, Louisville, Hebron, Wakeland, and Frisco. Lee, let's back to you for your immediate knee-jerk reactions to my reactions.
My immediate knee-jerk reaction is for Louisville, go out. I like that call of go out, play. I mean, I think Coach Odo is a very good coach, and I think he's going to go out there and try to I think it's a little bit of, if they can get up by a little bit of a lead, start working on stuff that you want to work on before the playoffs. Get Ethan Terrell into a rhythm. Get your guys, what other players that haven't done a ton. Just try to form some stuff that you want to, just simple stuff before you get in that first round a little bit. And then, no offense to Hebron, I love, obviously we love them because they're a DenCo Gridiron team, but it's going to be a try to beat them like a drum, because you're getting prepped for that playoff run in a sense, and you're also trying to hold on to a seed, right? You're not falling down a seed. So Louisville does have something to play for, right? Now with Wakeland and from the Wakeland perspective, Frisco and Wakeland, it's a little bit different to me because not either way you're playing a very tough opponent, and to some degree, it's like I don't know how much I want to run out my best players like Brennan Meyer or something. Where what are we getting out of running these guys out there to some degree,
Sure.
right? And I think even if you're Louisville to some degree, like you are a very physical team. So if Coach Odell said, "Hey, I don't know how much I want to play these guys more than a quarter or two," like if they go out there and play the first quarter or first half and they look good, they look sharp, uh, I don't think it's a bad idea to just say, "Hey, we look sharp, we look good, like we're good, like we're fine." Like I wouldn't
Yeah.
fault that. I don't think it's a bad idea. Like it's
Yeah, you
like it's the
definitely.
goal. Yeah, like it'd be great to have the home field advantage. It's just
Yeah, I
be
mean,
sharp.
you're 100%, I think, spot on in terms of health should be the biggest
Hmm.
key for most of these teams that are already into the playoffs, like a Wakeland, like a
Hmm.
Louisville, like a Northwest.
Hmm.
Um, but it's also hard, kids that they want to play and they want to have those
Oh
bragging
yeah, and that's
rights
where
and
I think
everything.
coaches have to like look. Coaches got to step in and just be like, "Hey, look, like if you've got like if you're the Northwest, I forget the Northwest. What's the
Bill
Northwest
Poe.
head coach? Bill Poe.
Hmm.
Yeah, if you're Bill Poe, it's like you got to step in. Hey, Ife, we're gonna have to give you the ball 35, 40 times. Like that's just is what it is, and we can't be giving you the ball that many times here in the final week of the regular season when we already have a playoff game next week. Like it just doesn't make sense. We're gonna give the ball to some other guys. We might give it to you 15 times today. But like we're cutting your workload way down.
Sure.
At the
Yeah.
and that to me is at the bare like that's the kind of the bare minimum I look at for some of these playoff teams that are there. It's like just cut some workload down. If you're playing for a district title, that's one thing. If you're a coach, these coaches know what they're doing. The players are very aware. I think players are more in tune with their body and how they feel than ever before. I think the training staffs are better at most schools, especially the 6A schools that have a little bit of money and such.
Hmm.
So it's one of those things where I lost my train of thought there for a second, so I'm gonna let you pick up.
No,
We'll throw it to you.
throw it back to me for my knee jerk reaction to your reaction.
Yeah.
No, I think you're spot on. But at the same time, it's just
Hmm.
pride and all that is really
Yeah.
an MF in that regard. So we'll see how it shakes
Always.
out. But I could definitely easily see these teams getting off the throttle. First half after the first half, and just we want to keep our guys clean and healthy, and let's slow it down for tonight. Come back, watch film tomorrow, and prepare for our first round opponent, and go from there. So for sure.
Yeah.
All right. We're wrapping up time here a little bit. Let's get into the DenCo Gridiron game of the week. So it's so weird to say that we have a game of the week that we're going to tonight. We're through a curveball because usually our games of the week are on a Friday. But this one just seems like it's too outside of Prestonwood and Parrish, just too important to not call it the game of the week. And that is Salina, the number 2 ranked Bobcats in 4A D1, traveling south to Kirkendall Stadium, aka Frisco ISD Memorial Stadium, to face Panther Creek, who we'll be seeing for the 3rd time this year tonight. So I'm gonna let you started these notes and everything for today's show. I'm gonna let you
Oh yeah.
roll with this one. Go for it.
So I mean, we joked about it. Like we kind of had this circled after the like Aubrey game. Oh, if Panther Creek keeps this up, we might have to go to see them play Salina. They kept
Oh,
it up all
yeah.
year long. They have one loss on the ledger.
Yeah,
All
and that's
right.
just a
And
blurb
it was to
to
Frisco Emerson, who is a full classification above them.
right.
All right. So this Panther Creek team is no joke. They're no slouch. All right, now Salina, they're a beast. They are a powerhouse. They've been around for a while in terms of just kicking everyone's butt. All
Mhm.
right, the running backs Harrison Williams and Logan Gutierrez are rushing for over 8 yards a carry. That is going to be a problem, I think, for the Panthers to some degree. We talked about the physicality of the Panthers being somewhat lacking.
Yep.
When we were at that Hutchinson game, they were getting bullied by Hutch. So I'm a little bit concerned to some degree about that, that rushing attack for Salina kind of giving some problems to him. What about you? What do you think about that regard?
Yeah, that's the like problems 1 through 10 for me when it comes to Panther Creek. Is I love the story that they have developed for themselves in terms of going from a 3-win first year varsity program, just barely getting into the playoffs last year, to thrusting yourself into the upper echelon of 4A D1. However, they are very undersized up front. And that's what I put in my notes when it came to Panther Creek to kind of flesh this out, is like, they're not a team that puts pressure on the quarterback. They're not a team that gets a lot of activity in the backfield. We saw here and there, maybe 1 to 2 plays a game that we've seen so far of getting a tackle for loss or pushing the offensive line back a little bit and creating some hurries. But overall, this team is about speed right now, and they are very active in terms of taking away the ball. They're going to have to get some pressure up front, especially against Salina's running attack. And this is a Salina team that gives up or that scores 50 some odd points a game. So it's not going to be an easy task. So like your notes say, can they assert themselves, or are we on defense, or are we just going to be into a back and forth, which I think is what's going to happen, a back and forth
Yeah.
offensive showdown? I don't know how strong Salina's defense is. You have questions about it as well, just because of the points given up. They've played some pretty good teams like Anna, who beat them in the playoffs last year. But they've also won every game. So I think we're in for a shootout. I think we're in for a very, 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 very entertaining game. And it's just going to be a war of wills out there tonight at Kirkendall Stadium.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think it's going to be an absolute back and forth. I don't see this game getting one-sided or over another at all. I think that's hard for me to even imagine, just because of some of the stuff that's been going on. Like Salina, so a big thing for me that I kind of noticed is just kind of from the box score, it reminded me a little bit of Aubrey in the sense that, so the quarterback, Knox Porter, he's been kind of the perfect quarterback to some degree for this team. However, he's got 9 touchdowns and no interceptions. The problem is he only has 73 pass attempts and a 58% passing completion percentage, which that is not enough to me to keep up with this Panther Creek team if it turns into a shootout. Now, the good thing is that rushing attack is electric, so they can kind of keep up in that regard.
Yeah.
But if they fall behind a couple of scores, I think Salina could be. That's where I think Panther Creek. I'm almost thinking, hey, go get the ball first. If you win the
Oh,
toss, return.
you,
Like
you
take
took
the
the
ball.
words right out
Like
of my mouth. That was
like
I know
you.
for a
This
fact
is
that
this is
they win the toss, they are
the
taking the
game.
ball.
You take the ball.
Yeah. The only other there's I can't see Panther Creek not taking the ball first in this game. I mean, you could hope and wish that your defense is strong enough once or twice to maybe force a turnover or force a fourth down or whatever, to where you're able to score last and sandwich the halftime with the ending score and then a beginning score, and maybe regain the lead or extend the lead or whatever the case might be. But man, no, I just the way they play, I feel like they're going to want to take a shot like right off the top and get the ball. And
I think they're gonna go right after Salina and challenge them, because I don't know. I don't think Salina, just when you scroll through who they've played from the top of, from what I recall, Anna's a similar offense to a
little more passing within Anna's
little bit
regard
more passing, but
than
I don't know that they've
Salina.
played. I don't think they've played this type of spread yet this season. Kind of more up tempo,
Mhm.
paced offense. I don't think they've played that this year. And real quick, if we just run through the scores of what kind of Salina's done, they haven't given up more than 7 points since week 4.
Yep.
However, they gave up 34 to Carter. They gave up
Well,
40
they
to
gave up.
Anna.
They gave up. They've only given up more than 7 one time since week 4.
Yeah, one time since week 4. Excuse me. It was 34 to Carter. It was like 40 to Anna, and then they gave up more points than they should have to a few other opponents early in the year. And so I just have questions about, is this defense, like, what is it this defense struggles with? Are they hot and cold? Like, what is the deal here? Was somebody missing in that Carter game? Like, I'm a little. I just don't know, like, what's going on with that defense, because I don't have defensive stats. This is more in depth stats on that defense.
Mhm.
And the other thing for me is, I do think Panther Creek has shown they can go get the ball. They have, like, that's the one thing. We talked about them being fast. They can go get turnovers.
Yep.
It's similar to Byron Nelson in some degree. I don't think they're as good as Byron Nelson on the defensive side of things, but they can go find the football when they need to.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, Webb has 5 takeaways, Bell has 3,
mhm.
Jackson has 2. I think, though, the concerning point, if you're Panther Creek on offense, is if they eliminate Trickett, who steps up to get those throws and help stretch the defense, because it can't
Mhm.
just be Trickett all the time. You don't really want to turn it to a one
I think
Trickett.
they answered that. I think they answered that in the Hutchinson game, because Hutchinson was fairly stout up front, and they were able to run the football fairly well. Like, I think the offensive line is solid. They were running the ball pretty well, more in the goal line, towards the goal line, and then they found other guys to kind of throw the
Sure.
ball around to in that Hutch game. So I'm not as worried about what happens if Trickett gets taken away nearly as much as I was a couple of weeks ago. Now, I think it is a little bit different with the Salina game, because this offense is going to have to put up points, and if Trickett gets taken away, I don't know if they're going to
Well,
be.
right. That's
I
what I'm
think it's
saying.
going to
Like,
be it's going to be a lot harder to put up 35 to 42 points if he's not there.
right. Well, I mean, not that he's not going to be there. I just feel if he's
Well, that's what I
neutralized,
meant. Sorry. Yeah,
uh,
he's
if
neutralized.
he's
Sorry.
neutralized, can Meldrum or Jackson or Simpson step up and fill that void? Because you don't want to have to just rely on one receiver, and you also don't want to have to
Mhm.
put your. He's not overly sly, but he's a slender quarterback. You don't want to have to put Roberts in a situation where he's having to option read and run a
No.
lot against the defense that's really hits hard. That's one thing I know about Salina, is they hit hard.
No, this is going to be a physical team. It's going to be similar to Argyle, where they're going to punish you. Those linebackers and guys they're going to hit you
Yep. Yeah,
as hard as they want.
it's going to be a fun matchup though tonight over at Kirkendall,
I
regardless of what the outcome is. And speaking of outcomes, what is your prediction for tonight?
At the very least, so this is kind of. I think we've already said it. I think this is within a one possession game. I think this is at the minimum of 7. I don't see this getting outside of a one possession game.
Wow.
I'm gonna give. I obviously I want to say Panther Creek. I always want to pick our DenCo Gridiron teams.
Sure.
Every week. I just, like, if I'd be the worst pick 'em of all time.
Oh yeah.
It'd just be Denton County teams everywhere.
There you go.
But no, I do. I'm just going to go with a little bit of a lean to Salina. I think it's a one possession game. I think Salina has the edge, just because they're a program that's been established. They've got. I think that's the bigger thing here. Is this is a tradition for them. This is like, they've watched older brothers. Everyone's done, like, this is. I think that's a big thing here.
Mhm.
Like, you have a little bit of that, generational, like, okay, we do this kind of thing.
Yeah, the
You've got
Salina
kids
way.
that grew up seeing this thing. Like, they're not going to feel the pressure, I think, the way Panther Creek might put it on themselves.
Yeah, well, I don't think the pressure really exists in that front for Panther Creek, but so you're giving a one possession nod to Salina. correct?
Yeah, I think it's I would set a line at like minus, I think 6.5 if I was setting a line.
Okay. I should have pulled this up before we were. Let's see if I can pull it up.
I would bet if you look at Massey ratings, they're probably gonna be like 28.
So yes,
I think minus 6.5. I feel
okay.
pretty comfortable saying, look, this is not
So
a full.
Dave Campbell's agrees with
I
you.
see the upside.
Dave
I
Campbell's
see the
agrees
path
with
to the
you
upside.
in
Okay,
being a 4-point game. Massey ratings, yes,
Mm.
our data input shows it as like what was it, a 23.5 point edge to
That's bad.
so like that's where like this was a 53-0 beat down by Salina at Salina last year. How much of adding Braxton Roberts closes that gap? Honestly, I don't see it being that much. This is a game
And
where
all those players from last year are a year older.
I get
You
it.
you have
I
to
get it, but
factor that
so
in.
is Salina. They're
And I
not.
also want to just throw in. I want to throw in this one last thing. Aubrey won their district. They're the same. They're kind of the same Aubrey team. But they gave up. This Panther Creek team gave up 200 yards rushing.
That was
that
early
Aubrey
in the
game.
year. They
They gave
didn't
up
know what they
7
had.
points. That was week 4. And that's part of the reason I think this Panther Creek team has a very legit chance to end this game with an upset. They said, we'll give up the rushing yards, but you're not going to throw the football. You're just not.
Man, I don't disagree. I don't disagree with you on that fact. I just don't think they're strong enough up front to go against a powerhouse 4AD1 team. I think the level between 4AD1 and 4AD2 are supremely different. Like I remember a couple years ago when Carthage and Argyle were champions at the same year. They were like, who would win this matchup, Argyle and Carthage? I was like, well, I think it's Argyle by a mile. I think the talent level is huge. This is before they leapt up to 5A. But I'm gonna go with the team that has been there and done that, and hasn't really had to, or hasn't shown a propensity of falling off. And of course they're undefeated as well this year. I'm gonna go between the 4 and the 23 somewhere. I think it's a 2-score game. I think we're looking at Salina probably winning by 14 to 17 points. And just, as you put in your notes, putting Panther Creek in its place and showing that right now you're tier below the top dogs. I will go out on a limb and say this. I feel like this is a strong limb. If Panther Creek knocks off Salina, not only will they be district champs, I think we will see them in the top 10 rankings. Put it in the books.
Right I don't know how. Yeah, no. That's the least bold part of that. If they beat Salina, they'll be in the top 10. I'm surprised they're not as of right now with some of the teams that are in there. Obviously, they're very good programs, but a little bit of bias because it's like they're undefeated and they've beaten some good teams. So I'm a little bit.
Sure.
Hey,
yeah. No. I do think
so,
they'll hit the final rankings if they beat Salina. I think they're probably right on the cusp of that top 10 right now.
For me, my biggest thing for this game isn't even necessarily seeing Panther Creek win. It's how tight can they play this team?
Yeah.
And can they enter that echelon of, hey, if things go
there,
right, we might be there at that, in that state semifinal here,
like I'm going to tap the brakes on that one.
No,
I'm going to tap the brakes on that one. I don't think they're state semifinal ready yet, but I watched
JW Walsh and co do it way before anybody thought they were ready. I'm just that's what this team gives me. They give me that vibe.
Okay.
They give me that vibe.
You were around that. I get that. That makes sense.
And yeah, that's why this team is like I just enjoy this team so much. As obviously they just kind of remind me of that. Growing up as a kid and then just watching this team, this high school that's brand new. So it's just very fun. And so it's like, this new high school is going out and, that could all come crumbling down today. And,
absolutely.
Yeah. So I'm very excited for this.
What what we see tonight will definitely help predicate what
Oh yeah.
their playoff run is going to look like. Whether it's 2 rounds and then you wins and then you're out in the third, or you're doing a longer march where you're halfway through and making noise. Yeah, it's definitely going to alter that path or those outcomes. All right, man.
Absolutely.
We did it. We went over by 10 minutes, 11 minutes, but we're on the internet. We can do whatever we want. We own this world.
Yes, we do.
Parting shots before we reconvene tonight over in Kirkendall.
Go support your local high school football team this week.
Go Sport!
Sport, yeah. Go do high school football stuff. I don't know. Go have fun.
Go support your teams. Go enjoy. Have fun tonight.